Okay.
Go ahead and share it.
Forgive you.
Share it on your pages.
God.
They're going to be sharing the Big Mouth Media live feed on their
Yes.
Facebook pages as well.
We got a whole morning show. We
Yes.
are doing this in the mornings now.
I'm proud of us.
This is our third week straight.
And every morning we're coming on earlier and earlier and closer to
Yeah.
the time that we're supposed to.
Yeah.
Definitely. Good morning, everyone.
I'm going to have some more coffee.
Good morning. Progress, not perfection. You
Yeah.
know?
And
That's what
yeah,
we're-
don't let the good be the enemy of the perfect, or perfect be the enemy of the good.
Yeah, exactly. So good morning, everyone, and happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Welcome to the Juice Podcast. We are live as we are every Friday morning at 7:30 at the Seed and Bean Market downtown Fort Myers. And we invite you all to drop in and say hello. You know, give us a little word of advice, how we can improve, you know, maybe sign up for a little subscription or whatnot.
Have a coffee.
Yeah.
Give some commentary. We're open to commentary.
Get a shot of CBD if you need that to get through the day.
Which you may in Florida right now. Let's be honest.
Oh yeah, after yesterday, last night.
Oh man.
You want to tell them, Sarah?
So Cindy walks in and she looks at Sarah and she says, you know, they signed it last night. And I just need to know what is happening. Well, give me the updates. I know we were facing a 6-week abortion ban.
Right. And let's just put it this way. This is a total ban because it's 6 gestational weeks, which means what, 2 weeks late for your period?
2 weeks late. Yeah, 2 weeks late for your period.
And I know not a single story of somebody knowing they're pregnant that early. Not a single one. Most of the time it's like 4 weeks-ish. And especially if you have irregular periods, then you're just screwed. You're screwed.
Right.
So basically what happened, the bill was voted on yesterday, passed.
In the House, the Florida House. It was
Yes.
passed through the Senate last week.
Last week, yes. So the final vote was yesterday in the House and the bill passed. It was signed already last night by Governor Ron DeSantis. The irony in that,
We thought he was on a book tour.
yeah, we thought he was on a book tour. At least that was his excuse when he wasn't in Fort Lauderdale, as it was underwater this week. So Ron just finds the time for the things that
he wants. That's
Yeah,
right.
the priorities. So what's also important to remember is there's a few different things going on in the state. So we have a 15-week abortion ban that had been in place. Little audio. So we had the 15-week abortion ban that's currently being legally tested. Okay. We had an increase in 2022 in the number of abortions that were performed in the state of Florida because Florida has become the place that other southern states, folks who need an abortion have been coming here. So it was actually about 3,000 more abortions performed in 2022 than 2021. The further complicating factors in the 6-week abortion ban are that Florida already has very restrictive and a lot of barriers to receiving an abortion. You have to have a 24-hour waiting period. You have to have an ultrasound before you can even approve that. And so that's why Sarah's correct in saying that this is basically a total abortion ban, not only because most folks don't realize they're pregnant so early on in a pregnancy, but the requirements to get the doctor's appointments that are necessary to even perform the abortion is nearly impossible given the time frame, because it takes approximately 20 days to secure the appointments necessary.
Right. And what we already know is that women in poverty are going to be most at risk with this because their access is limited already. And then you take that down to basically a 2-week period, and there's no shot at it. And it's frustrating to hear the Republican commentary on this. And I will say that 7 Republicans did vote no. So good for you.
Good for them.
Because this is not something that Floridians want. Not Republican Floridians want this.
67% of Floridians, according to a recent Florida Atlantic University poll, are in favor of abortion access.
Right. And that's what's so frustrating, because your job as a representative
is to represent the people.
Yes.
Yeah. I know I'm a little quiet on this issue, but it's sad. How do you feel right now? Do you feel hopeless? Do you feel like we just have so much work? Like, What do you feel, Cindy? You usually have that spark in your eye.
Yeah, I'm feeling a bit defeated by the system at the moment. But actually, for me, I feel just disgusted too because of the way that Jenna Persons Malika, who is the representative for our area here, she was being celebrated by the right. Actually, one organization made this whole montage of her and how she's bringing about the culture of life, and anything we do to protect life matters. And it's such horseshit, knowing the maternity mortality rate. You throw in guns, you throw in the reduced access to all different types of care in the state. It's not about life.
I don't think it's about life.
What about the hundreds of thousands of children sitting in foster care right now? That's what it just baffles me to say. And that's what I was going to get into. The narrative of this, of that, if you're pro-choice, you're anti-life. No, I'm sorry. If you are pro-restrictive abortions, then you are anti-life, because the truth is we have children already drowning in the system that aren't getting the attention or the care that they need. And our legislators are busy focusing on this. It's so frustrating. I saw also Representative Roach praising her. He's another local representative.
And he was a co-sponsor.
Yes. And it's just, the narrative on this is so damn frustrating.
Yeah.
And it's a somber feeling, but at the same time, I do have hope, because I think the Republicans have pushed their agendas a little bit too far, and I think it's going to backfire on them. And we're seeing that at capitals all across the country that are instituting these bans and restricting the voices of the people.
Absolutely. Well, we got a lot of folks joining us right now. We got about 13 people walking through the door. But
young ladies.
On a lighter note, shout out to the Dunbar Easter Parade. Cindy, we missed you.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
We missed you this year. Shout out to everybody who had an opportunity to attend the Dunbar Easter Parade. Miami may have the oranges.
Fort
Myers got the juice.
Fort Myers got the juice, and it's juicing everywhere. Shout out to Lee Pitts. But yeah, we did it up this year. We missed you, though.
Fun. I know.
It was Sarah's first time attending the Dunbar Easter Parade. How would you rank it from 1 to 10?
10 highest?
Yeah.
10 for sure.
Okay. I'll take that.
An amazing day. The sense of community was almost overwhelming.
Yeah.
It was incredible. And I can't believe that I've lived here for so long and I haven't attended. But I swear, my first 12 years here or 11 years was like in this little shell of my business. And, you know, it's been nice to get out and experience more community.
Hey, shout out to Brittany Gonzalez, who's watching us right now. And Brittany is an amazing radio show host. She's actually probably on the radio. We're not trying to compete, girl, okay?
No.
But
no, we're not. We love you.
But she's been an amazing advocate for women's health care.
And that's such an important question that Brittany asks. What can we do next from here? What's next? That's where I feel like, you have to have hope in order to push out hope.
Exactly.
So it's good that you still have some hope.
There's a few things that people are doing. So one, I know, because a lot of people are reaching out to me. People are fundraising for emergency abortion funds, helping folks get the resources they need if they do have to travel out of state. So there, I have my friend's daughter is putting together a teen-led, youth-led initiative to fundraise on this.
So what's some states people can travel to if they still want to access abortion?
I would have to pull up the map because the legislation is changing pretty rapidly.
It's far, because pretty much the whole South we're really taking it way back to where the South was a whole separate entity.
Wow.
Yeah, that's kind of part of the point.
That's
you can
how
fly to Michigan.
That's
Michigan
how they feel about Florida anyway.
Yeah. Michigan
That's
has really worked to preserve their reproductive freedom under Governor Gretchen Whitmer. They just passed some major legislation to roll back their ban that had been on the books since the 1800s. So that's one thing that you can do to help people immediately. The next step, because obviously this advocacy has not been working, because our representatives actually don't care. So it doesn't matter how many rallies we hold outside Jenna Persons' office. She was going to vote for this because this is part of her very flawed belief system. So what that means is that we have to work for the next election. And I know people hate when we say that, but This is talking about making sure that we are electing people to the state legislature
Right.
that are willing to work for the people and preserve the rights of reproductive freedom and women's rights.
Right.
So that means 2024, we got to get folks registered to vote. We have to help Howard Sapp, who's running against Jenna Persons Malika.
Yes.
We have to help whoever runs against Spencer Roach and make sure that they are getting in to that state legislature so
Right.
they can roll back this legislation. That is really the only hope that we have to make changes.
Yeah.
But we can't lose hope. The thing is this is still being litigated as well.
Uh-huh.
So we could see the 15-week ban not go through. Now, I'm not trying to instill hope that shouldn't be there. That may not work, but that is still a possibility. These bans could get rolled back through litigation.
It's true. And
Based
there
on our
will be plenty of
Constitution.
legal challenges that come up against the new law as well. But those are long processes, right? So I think there does have to be this strategy of how we're going to help people now.
Right.
And what are we going to do to move forward into the future? And the future part is the voting and making
Right.
sure that we're getting pro-choice people and people who are working for the actual people
Right.
elected to this Florida legislature.
You know, and what's frustrating to me is, and what a lot of people I don't think understand, and I think you have to have really a good knowledge of how our system works and how the vote works in our electoral system. In Florida, there's 5.3 million Republicans, okay? And then there's 4.8 million Democrats, a little over 4 million independents, right? But yet we have a supermajority.
Right.
That does not reflect what the population is.
So
Right.
break that down when you talk about a super majority.
So
It was like 70 votes for the anti-abortion bill versus 40 against. So it means that
Okay.
it doesn't matter. And that 40 was like all the Democrats and then a handful of
right.
additional
7
Republicans.
Republicans.
So we have an overwhelming majority of Republicans representing the people in the Florida House,
Mhm.
and yet that's not reflective of the population. And the reason
Right.
for that is because of the way our votes and our districts are set up.
Gerrymandering.
But also the fact that Republican districts tend to be more rural. Democratic votes are more concentrated in bigger cities, so their districts are more compact. So you may have way more people in a Democratic district, but it's one district. Republicans are spread out more,
Right.
so they're able to get more seats, even if they don't
Well,
have
how they
a
drew
majority
the map.
vote.
I mean, it's crack and pack. That's the thing.
Right.
So they crack the districts. So the places where there's a significant amount of people who are likely to vote Democratic. And by the way, it was determined by the Supreme Court that they can use race as a proxy for likely Democratic voters.
Right.
Because that's actually how the 2012 or the 2010 legislative map, congressional map got that was gerrymandered to high hell, made it through, because the Republicans at that time had used race as a proxy for Democratic votes. And as long as they weren't trying to actually hurt the voting prospects of that race of people, it was okay to say that they were trying to hurt the voting prospects of Democrats. And so they would break apart those districts. And right here in Florida 19, that's one reason why the line goes through, takes out North Fort Myers and cuts out Lehigh, because that's where you have larger populations of Democratic voters, because then that would shift this district a little bit more Democratic if they were included.
Right.
And then they pack them into the urban areas. That's what Sarah was describing. So they're already compact. And so they just say, okay, like they put as many Democrats in one district. So you have in congressional maps, for instance, places that have like plus 35
Right.
Democratic votes, whereas you don't actually have anything near as high as that with the Republicans. And that's because they make it so that it's statistically almost impossible for a Democrat to win, but not overwhelmingly Republican.
Right.
Yeah, it's scary living in Florida at this point.
Yeah.
What are some other laws that are circulating out there right now?
Another big thing that was going on in the Florida House this week was, did you hear about Rep. Barnaby and his little outburst?
What?
Tell us about it.
Okay, so Rep. Barnaby, who is a representative in Volusia County, my home, they were looking at the bill that would criminalize using a bathroom that is not your designated birth sex, right? So this harms me because I have to pee a lot. And there are
Right.
many times where I will use a male's restroom and I don't
So-
even care.
So if
So
you
that would
if
be
you
criminal.
use a bathroom outside of your matter of fact, I was at FGCU yesterday for Take Back the Night, and
Yes.
I was looking for the bathroom, and then I see this symbol
Uh-huh.
of just freedom because it had every kind of symbol. Like, in other words, anybody can use the bathroom
Right.
in this particular facility. So
Uh-huh.
why are we thinking about that?
Because it's just another part of this just
Attack
ridiculous
on trans people.
on trans
Yeah.
people and
Yeah.
that's the thing about the whole
And then I heard also, not to cut you off,
No,
but
it's
then
okay.
I heard also that there are going to be like gender checks for youth athletics.
So
A Florida representative put that forward too, I
Yeah.
think.
no, that had passed through, I believe it wasn't Tennessee. Tennessee was in the news as well. Kentucky, I think.
They're going to be,
One of the-
they want to check the genitals
I can't keep track
of
anymore.
children.
It was not this state. It was another state. But
so
they
that they can pass a test so that they can know
Yeah.
that they are the sex that they were born.
right.
right. Yeah. It's a ridiculous assertion. It doesn't happen that often as the other thing, but it's part of this red meat culture war
Uh-huh.
that's driving the far right Republican bases.
Right.
And
Yeah,
so
for
they
sure.
want to see this discussion because they've been told this is a problem.
Yeah.
And bathroom bills, by the way, have a long history in this state, at the local level as well, as being this kind of thing to get people agitated around.
Right.
Really?
Yes.
Again, these are issues that are non-issues.
I don't
They're
think
not
they're
issues.
non-issues. And Rep Barnaby, here's the as he was speaking on this bill, he said he feels like he's living in an X-Men movie. There's nothing but mutants and demons. He literally called trans people demons and rebuked them. Say, I rebuke you, Satan and demons.
Wow.
In the well. Like, this is
Shout out to Representative Chevron
Jones.
Chevron Jones.
Yes.
He spoke so well. I shared his video because he said these aren't demons. These are human beings,
Right.
basically. But the way he spoke, it was passionate and it was from the heart. So support your representatives when they're on track, when they're doing what they're supposed
Right.
to do. Share their content.
Yes.
Help get the word out to support our local representatives that are actually working on behalf of the people.
Yeah. But I think that it's worth noting. I mean, listen, it's very easy to poke fun at somebody who comes in and says, oh, they're demons and all this kind
Right.
of stuff. But I think it's important to talk about how that dehumanizes people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's dehumanization language.
Right.
And these are the precursors to genocide. This is how, Hitler had talked like this using dehumanizing language against the Jews.
Right.
And by the way, against trans and LGBT people.
Right. Yeah.
And it's a way to justify future violence.
Yeah.
When you dehumanize people.
And
so
people think-
this is a big
People
deal.
think it's an overreaction to say things like that, and it's not. Like, all of these genocides and dictatorships, they all start with book bans. They all start with creating a
And-
mistrust in the media. Like, so we're seeing this stuff play out in real
100%.
time.
Yeah,
But-
and speaking of another
No.
element of genocide, check this one out. Florida bill to criminalize filming police action.
Yep.
Right.
Film granted, okay, so the bill specifically says you can't be within 20 feet of a police officer filming that police officer. Thank goodness for Zoom. We just gonna have to, tighten up on that Zoom feature. But how in the world, who does that protect? And do you think this is another element of, do you think this is number one in anti-Black sentiment? And do you think that, what can we do about this?
What we can do is what we already said. We need to turn out and vote. We need
Yeah.
to, because the numbers Okay, it's not impossible, and that's what I want our viewers,
Give us
listeners to
hope.
understand.
There you go. Give us hope.
Is that it's not impossible.
Because I think we feel like it is in Florida.
No,
though.
it's really not. If we just turn out in greater numbers,
Yes.
because it's not just about who's registered; it's about who turns out
To vote.
Not only that, the youth across the nation are showing out because Republicans have taken it too far. So these are a lot of bills. We're dealing with the most progressive generation, the one
Right.
that's coming up. These Republicans are in trouble and they know it, and that's why they're pulling these stunts. But the truth is, and the reason why I brought up the districts and the numbers and Barnaby is that regardless of what ticket you run on, if you are a Republican and you win, there are still 4.8 million Democrats in this state that you are not speaking for. When you get elected, you are not just speaking for your Republican constituents. You are speaking for everyone in your district. And that's what they're not
We
doing.
need somebody representing for the people. Y'all know any, Cindy? You know anybody who can? Do you know anybody who can?
I mean,
Who can just take? Because
I know some people.
I know a few people too,
We'll
but
see
it's like
who comes out of the woodwork.
that's some power.
I want to take a moment, shout out to Anne Marie coming to us from Facebook. Yes, thank you. For she's resonating with you, saying thank you to representatives who are doing the right thing. But she tells us that one of her neighbors is a New York State senator. That's wild. Who sponsored an anti-trans bill? That's awful. And I hope that if you're in situations like that, and I know it can be difficult, but yeah, try and talk to folks. Tell them what it means, because sometimes these people who are put up to do these different bills and blah blah blah, sometimes they're just doing what they're told and they haven't thought it all through.
And they haven't been properly challenged either.
Yeah, that's true. And shout out to Melinda Blue Note.
What's up, Blue Note?
She was our drop of the week a couple weeks ago, and we're hoping that she will come and join us one of these mornings.
She's supposed to be here on the 28th.
That's right. So we're excited for that. So thanks to everyone that's watching us here live and that joins us afterwards in our podcast. And don't forget to join us in studio here in Seed and Bean, downtown Fort Myers.
Yeah. So what do we have coming up this week? So I know, shout out to various women's organizations who tomorrow morning here in downtown Fort Myers will be sponsoring a walk and talk.
Yes.
Basically, it's not a women's march per se, but it's a walk and talk event where you come together with like minds. That's going on tomorrow. Where do we meet, Sarah?
I believe we're meeting at the Pavilion in Centennial Park.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's at 8 a.m. tomorrow under the Pavilion, Centennial Park. I'm not sure if I'll be there. I have a sorority meeting tomorrow, so I need to be fully
There's
prepared for
the
that.
Democratic Women's Club of East Lee County's meeting. Sorry, I got a little coffee there. Democratic Women's Club of East Lee County tomorrow morning. Getting that stood up so all the women in Lehigh area have a home group. So that's going on too.
Nice.
Shout out. We got a lot of chatter this morning. Good morning, Elizabeth, and thank you for your work on the coalitions. And I think everybody getting together, building groups, building coalitions, that is really what is going to make some change here in the state. So keep up the great work.
Yeah, we're still in this. We still together. I'm a little quiet this morning on the topic, but one thing I do know how to do is stay connected to the information. So shout out to the various organizations. Like last night we were with the National Organization for Women Now, the Fort Myers Women's March at the Take Back the Night event at FGCU. So people still care about these issues, and they're showing up in their own ways. And you can join too. Just reach out and touch somebody's hand.
Well, let's roll back a little bit though. Why are you feeling a little bit quiet? You don't feel very connected to this issue?
I don't feel very knowledgeable about the up to date. Like I didn't know what happened last night. That the bill was signed last night. I don't know if I didn't go to bed that early, but I don't know why. But nevertheless, I feel as though there is this feeling of not knowing how to connect. Like once you're informed, not knowing what to do next. The practical steps, like I'm a voter, so I vote. So then after that, once you have it in your mind that, okay, I'm going to stay connected to people who I think will represent the people, as you mentioned, Sarah. But I think ultimately outside of that, in the day-to-day process, it's hard to not feel defeated by power.
Yeah.
It's hard to not, and that's, I think part of our network of people and bringing voices and bringing people together is to stay informed, but then we also have to have somebody to keep us empowered and to give people hope
Absolutely.
when there are times of hopelessness and despair, and we have to find ways, we have to create hope. And so, but as you all were sharing information, I was really just listening, just trying to learn. But shout out to those who still have hope.
I was
Yeah.
going to say this is a good opportunity to also let our activists and advocate friends know that it's okay to take a break.
Yeah.
Your self-care at this time is really important because we need everybody for the long run. I think that's very important to emphasize because I think
Yes.
we can get like we want to fight, but this isn't going to be a long-term battle.
Right.
Folks, okay?
Yeah,
So-
that's what it feels like. It feels like it's going to be a long-term battle. And with protesting, because again, shout out to women in Southwest Florida and men who showed up to what was the name of it?
The Occupy?
The
on Monday?
Occupy,
Yeah.
Occupy on Monday. I wasn't able to make it, but people are showing up. Shout out to Elizabeth. We have a Housing Justice Coalition, and I'm one of the heads of the Collier County Tenants Union.
Yeah.
Knowledge
Oh,
Union.
hi.
you.
I've heard about you, Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Thanks for
So,
your work.
Absolutely.
And
So,
Anne Marie says that we're giving people hope, so that's good.
are we?
Thank you.
Anne-Marie.
Okay. Thank you for that. But I'm trying to stay connected to hope because
It's
What am I gonna
okay
do
to
if I'm not-
regroup.
Yeah.
It's okay to
Yeah.
rest. And I had to take that too, as when I was running for office, and I care about all the issues, right? But you can't show up to every protest.
you cannot
You
care
cannot-
about every cause. Oprah
Yeah.
said that one time many years ago at this function I attended in Atlanta, but you can't care about every cause, but even staying connected, it can feel overwhelmed, but empower those who do care, who do have the passion.
Yeah.
My new ministry is getting behind people who have that knowledge and who have that passion and doing my best to push them forward, because sometimes I get a little weary and sometimes you get a little weary.
We all do.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to step back, but when we step back, we have to know that things are still moving and progressing.
Right.
So I support us taking that time out, but also
Self-care.
empowering other people.
Have some coffee.
Well, and that's
Cheers
the
to
thing.
self-care.
That's the thing. Self-care is so important, and taking the time to reflect on what's happening so that we can be better organized, and so that when we do come out, we're taking meaningful and effective actions.
Right.
And I'm really, I know, like I said, I feel a little bit somber this morning because I know that until the litigation goes through, this bill will go in effect on July 1st. And
Yeah.
I'm somber because I know that there are going to be lives
So on the
affected in such a
preventative,
negative.
but on the preventative end of that,
Yeah.
right? Do you think now the response is people will not get pregnant or put themselves in like, I want to be careful with how I word this. Do you think that this legislation now alters the mindset of everyday people and how they may interact?
No, because despite the narrative, this isn't an issue of a lack of responsibility. In a lot of cases, this is an issue of a lack of resources. So when we're already stripping funding from organizations like Planned Parenthood, who offer resources to people that don't have access to them, then we're building problems.
You
We're
building problems
the
and then
problem.
building laws to deal with those problems
To
in the
further
harshest
the
way.
problem.
Yeah,
to further the
absolutely.
problems. But I'm inspired because I'm seeing a lot of young people coming out. I'm seeing different groups, even at Occupy. There's a whole different group of people, and they were like taking leadership in that.
That
event.
makes
So-
me feel great. And
Right.
and how can we get more of that? That's what I'm trying to grow. We
Yeah.
need some civic engagement programs solidified, and we can grow like the organizations that we have. We've attended events where you will see the majority of people that are there representing an organization, but as you're trying to reach people, the audience can be a little bit slim, but
Yeah.
stay on the battlefield.
Well, that's something that I've dedicated myself to coming up this cycle, is making sure that people that want to run have the resources, people that are thinking about it know what they want. And actually, I think you might be talking about our friend Jesse Kaysen, who is somebody who's been kind
Yes.
of involved a little bit, but really wants to get more involved. So I've been talking with her and helping her to feel encouraged, because sometimes people just don't know where to step in.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
so, and they need people to say, look, no, you can do this. There's,
Yeah.
you have every right to be there, to be in front, to lead, to organize, to amplify. You can do all of
Right.
that. Anybody can do all of that. You can start your own group. You can jump in with others.
Right.
You can see what Now or Women's March are doing, and you can amplify and show up and participate. There's
Yeah.
nothing that's stopping you. These are not exclusive organizations. Advocacy is not exclusive.
As a matter of fact, the Women's March, and now we can use some additional leadership and
Yeah.
participation. So
Yeah.
just reach out. You connected to the right people. We just gotta continue to do what we're doing.
Well, and two, did you all see, and this is also encouraging, did you see, we talked about this last week, but the Justin Pearson and Justin Jones were reinstated in the House. And did you see the
Tennessee.
streets? The massive amount
That
of
gives
young
me hope.
people.
Yeah.
Those are our new voters.
Yes.
Like Tennessee
yes.
is in trouble. That's what these people do not understand. Justice will always prevail.
Right.
It will always prevail. And I'm a true and firm believer in that. And even though we've had to cycle through these movements like repeatedly, we will prevail.
Right.
And we are seeing young civil rights leaders come to the forefront. And I see that in both of the justices.
Yeah.
So I'm inspired by
Somebody
that.
called them just in case and just in time. That's true. Those are the new leaders. But
Yeah.
thank you for that, because sometimes it can feel like, oh, okay, what are we doing? But then we got, I said that about Generation Z. They are on some other stuff.
Yeah.
They are, while they can get out of hand with this cancel culture concept, they are calling stuff out left and right, calling people to be accountable
Yeah.
and to examine their actions.
Right.
And so I think we need more of that.
Yes.
I agree.
And I think we're going
Right.
to see it in Florida too. Like I said, you push people so far, and then you might get a backlash that you weren't prepared for.
Mhm.
And we may just see that in Florida as well. I hope that we do.
Ooh,
And I
that'd
think
be-
these walks, these occupies, these are all ways that until election season, people are coming together
Yeah.
to build and to organize. And I just say, look out, because if you haven't been speaking for the people might come for you.
Okay. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
You can make all the montages about how you love life all you want, but there are people, real people, living people whose lives are going to be affected by your decisions.
Right.
So don't be afraid if those people show up at your door.
Oh, and speaking of which, I saw our local county commissioner, Cecil Pendergrass, commenting on Spencer Roach's post about pro-life.
Same way.
Cecil, if you're so pro-life, where the hell were you after Hurricane Ian? Because nobody saw you on the ground until you were riding up in that helicopter.
He
with
was
Joe
in
Biden.
Germany on a tourism trip, remember?
Right. So,
Oh,
pro-life,
how about that
my
that
ass.
evacuation too? How about being pro-life about evacuating people for
Right,
the hurricane?
right,
How about that?
That's
Right.
a fact. Yeah, our elected officials, you all need to be accountable. I challenge them in my own little ways, because I remember after the hurricane, there was this missed opportunity, I think, by a lot of our elected officials
Absolutely.
to show up and just to say, you know what, we're here. You're not going through this by yourselves, and we're doing what we can to provide you with the information. Because sometimes the only thing to comfort you is information.
Right.
The circumstance just has to be uncomfortable in other ways, but
Well, just to see people who care and are trying, like that goes
Yeah.
a long way.
good
Yeah.
morning, Cindy.
Good morning.
Hey.
Yeah, it's just another.
Oh, Anne Marie asked, where was Byron Donald? Oh,
Where were
so
any of them?
Byron showed up to one town hall.
Yes.
And actually, he and I together, we have a good working relationship when we talk. He was trying to help folks. I know that he didn't follow through on all of those, but actually it was his staff took that opportunity to corner me afterwards and start attacking me because I was telling the truth about some of the things that they've done, including attacking political rivals, including their criminal past, including killing people on I-75. And yes, Jesse Pardon, I'm talking about you, and I'm never going to stop talking about it, no matter how hard you try to bury that, because I want people to know the types of folks that our congressman has surrounded himself with.
Yeah.
He has surrounded himself with people who are willing to take people who are political rivals out in public and shout them down.
Yeah.
Byron had to pull his staff off me twice in that
Yeah.
encounter.
I don't think it should ever get to that point, but I do want to say, because we're calling out elected officials, shout out to, for this reason, Brian Hammond, because during the hurricane, I did invite him to come to one of the distribution sites. It was spur of the moment, and he showed up. He showed up because we got to make it a point to bring information and bring things to their awareness, but do it in a way that does not make them feel as though they should have already known to bring stuff to people.
I gotta bite back on that a little bit, because as elected officials, it is their responsibility to let us know.
But
And
we
that
also
was the
have
problem.
a duty too to let them know how we feel about them
Oh
and their
yeah,
work.
yeah.
So
absolutely.
once the opportunity is extended, and there is room at the cross for redemption to all of you politicians that have done things or not shown up or not represented the people in a way. The thing about it is you can always turn it around. I always say that about especially our Republican representatives. I for one never see them.
No.
Never see them in certain neighborhoods trying. I don't see the effort to reach out, to create networks to where multiple groups of people feel recognized or feel as though their elected official cares about what they have going on in their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, definitely Cecil Pendergrass can get down on his knees and repent, because he's got a hell of a lot to repent for.
Yeah.
Not only just abandoning the county in our hour of need, but he's involved in a lot of ridiculous white supremacy activities online. He is incredibly rude to people when they reach out.
I think people need to be challenged. That's what pisses me off. It's like we hear these, like how you just so perfectly described Cecil Pendergrass, but what bothers me is that they are not properly challenged. Like we have people who can really give them a run.
You mean like to run against
Yeah.
an office?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we really do. And actually, Cecil Pendergrass is up for election. So if you're interested in running for county commissioner, definitely reach out to us. It's a you have to live in the district. So there's 2, 4, and 5 are up. So it's Brian Hammond, Cecil Pendergrass, and Mike Greenwell's seats are up for election in 2024. You have to live in that area, but it's a county-wide election.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons why we haven't had representation based on the districts, because everybody in the county can vote.
Right.
And that's huge. It's actually larger in population than the congressional districts.
Right.
So you're talking over.
So if you know any good candidates for office, connect them to Cindy, because honestly, it just takes the average individual that cares enough, that is competent enough and knowledgeable enough to pursue these offices, and who knows, you may give somebody hope, and we may make some changes. So encourage people to run for office when you feel as though they have the wherewithal and the bandwidth to do so.
And who, what it is a love for community. I think you have to love your community, because going back to Hurricane Ian, in the aftermath, we saw our communities come together and really lean on each other and help each other, but our elected officials were nowhere to be found.
I agree with you.
And even when there was a situation out in Harlem Heights where there was a sewage line broke, and there was sewage all in the streets. I mean, flooding the streets. And I'm calling every county commissioner's office, and I don't even get so much as a voicemail. Now, I understand that things were hectic with the power lines and things like that, but it took a ridiculous amount of work to get in touch with somebody to get that handled, because nobody had been out there. So just things like that. You have to love your community, and you have to be in touch with your community.
Absolutely.
How do you know how to represent them?
All
and what they want
representatives,
if
we
you're not
calling you
talking to
out.
them?
We are calling you out here on the Juice Podcast. Even if you're doing well, keep up the good work.
Yes.
But let the people
try
decide
harder.
that. Try a little bit harder.
Try
because
harder.
we can all do better. We can all stand to do better. But a lot of you have gotten to a point. A lot of elected officials have gotten to the point of just flat out laziness, comfort, and perhaps that's the voters' fault. Whatever the case is, people can see the lack of effort in many ways. So you're not hiding from us. We see you.
And expect to get called out. I mean, I think that's part of, what I've seen is that, Cecil Pendergrass can get away with, sending snide remarks back to constituents and not responding to their emails, phone calls, texts, or confrontations because there isn't an opposition.
They feel safe.
They feel safe. And they
so
can
don't
get
have
away
to
with
do
a
their
lot of
job.
stuff. So that ends.
Yeah.
that ends.
Your safety is at risk, my friends. And I don't mean that physically. Nobody cancel.
No, but your comfort of being able to lie, cheat, steal, pull the wool over the constituents' eyes are done. That's one of the reasons why we started this and all the other shows on Big Mouth Media, is to hold folks accountable when otherwise it seems like they act with impunity.
Right.
Yeah.
So speaking of, before we get off, I think we need to touch on a national issue right now that is major, major, major. We've seen the biggest, it's not a whistleblower case, but the biggest leak since Snowden. Have you all heard about that?
Mhm.
No.
Yeah. So there was a leak of intelligence information by a
the FBI, the guy, the 21-year-old.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I did see that.
He was an IT person for what is now
National Guard.
National Guard? I thought it
Massachusetts
was
National Guard.
I thought it was Air Force.
No.
His father was in the Air Force.
Oh, okay.
No, yeah, he was apparently he was an IT professional and had access to a lot of documentation, and he took photos of that and shared it on Discord servers amongst a group of friends, and then they had like a gaming discussion, and that got shared around. So
Yeah. And this is intelligence, like national security intelligence information.
21 years old, because but how did he get access to it?
He's an IT guy, and that's what a lot of people are questioning. Like, how did he have access? There's all these rules and protocol, and that's what they're trying to get to the bottom of is how he got access to this information to leak. And it looks like it was printed. So how did he get that out?
Yeah, I saw the video of him being arrested on the BBC, and everybody was like, "Wow, a gamer was able to have this much power and do all this stuff." Gamers are smart though.
But I mean, we do have. I mean, he had security clearance, so it's like he's on a high enough level to where he had the security clearance. He just, there are people that don't. I don't know. You get the security clearance, and then you can't be trusted. I mean,
So
that's
what
a huge
happens
risk.
next with that? He's arrested.
he's
but
being
then,
arraigned this morning on the Espionage Act.
okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So what we learned from it is apparently some interesting intel about Ukraine and some of their weaknesses. Funny enough, this was broken because a Russian media company had found it on these Discord servers and then actually altered it to make Russia look better. And then it got out, and then the United States folks started figuring it out. But yeah, so additional, security cables.
But why'd
and stuff.
you look at me when you said Russia though? It was the way you looked at me when you said
I just thought you might be
the show.
interested in how
No.
Russia
Russia is a hot topic between Cindy
You
and Chantal.
you thought I might be interested.
I thought you
in
might
that.
be interested in Russian
Okay.
espionage and how it's affecting the United States.
I mean,
I know it is, and that's why I'm fighting against it.
interestingly, even though you've seen both Republicans and Democrats speaking out about this and saying this is a horrible breach of security, this is terrible. He needs to be held accountable at the highest levels. Then you have Marjorie Taylor Greene,
Right.
Who said?
who comes out and defends him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and says who should be to blame, him or the administration who is warmongering, essentially. Don't quote me. That's not exactly what she said.
Yeah.
But that was the effect she used, that he was anti-war and that he was calling out the United States and their involvement. And Marjorie, you already have the award for the most outlandish in our Congress. So you can stop trying at
Well,
this juncture.
I think that this was, so it seems as though that this young man was very hyper Catholic, very into guns. So he's kind of like her type of guy. And so she was stepping out to defend what she saw as somebody who was aligned with her base.
Speaking of that, I don't even think we try to pay homage to the victims of mass shootings, but it's getting to the point I don't even think we did that because it's so like so
in Nashville, there was the 3 children and then 3 adults.
No, there was another
the
one
after that
in Louisville, Kentucky.
Louisville, Kentucky.
Rick Scott's friend died. That's all I remember.
In that shooting?
Yeah, Rick Scott's banker.
Oh, wow.
And so I tweeted at Rick Scott. I'm like, so are you going to change your position then?
Wow.
Now there's somebody that has been affected. Isn't that how Republicans work?
Yeah.
This is
But shout out to those
Yes.
to the victims, and
Five.
it's just
Five
like
people.
5 people were killed
That's
and
the
so
last
many
I
other
heard, yes.
injured. So it's just
So I've actually heard something about this. So we
Exhausting.
talk about like the backlash against gun violence, and people want more regulation, but there's some folks who believe that this is actually part of a normalization of violence that allows for greater levels of violence. So once we
Right.
normalize dying and violence, it will not be that big of a step to have additional like state sponsored violence. It could be arresting women who have a miscarriage
Yeah.
on charges of abortion, which South Carolina representatives have already said that they want the death penalty for. So, there are people who say that the reason that these mass shootings go on is because of that.
That's exactly why when people were like, "You're going to Pakistan? Oh my God, be safe!" I'm like, bro, the United States is the one with these random mass shootings consistently, back to back, constantly, and the desensitization that is occurring.
Right.
Because it is so frequent.
Right.
I might as well just go and just travel to all these places that the U.S. State Department warns that we don't travel to.
Yeah.
Because look at us. Like at any minute, at any time, you don't have to have a permit to carry a ammunition in this state. It's just like you feel vulnerable.
Free-for-all.
You feel as though crime and violence is being encouraged, like you just said.
So I was going to say,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, speaking of travel bans, the Equality Florida has issued a travel restriction.
ban. Yeah, did I send you that? I sent one of
Yeah.
you that last night. Yeah, travel restriction on Florida.
Traveling to Florida if you are LGBT.
Well, and the NAACP already did.
Yep.
They already did weeks ago and
Yeah,
said it's
the
not safe
NAACP.
in the state of Florida for Black people. And
Yeah.
now Equality Florida has said the same thing about the LGBTQ.
Yo, we can't let that, man. But just so you all know, there are those of us here in the state that are pushing back on all of these mindsets, because it's a matter of the heart,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Legislation comes, but ultimately it's a matter of heart. It's a matter of where your mind is that causes you to think a certain way about other groups of people, anti-LGBTQ sentiment, anti-Black sentiment.
Right.
It is, we see it all happening, right? But there are those of us here, don't think all of Florida is just this shit show, because look at us on the
Right.
Juice Show.
It's really not.
It's not a shit show.
That's what I'm saying. Like our legislature makes it appear that there's this overwhelming majority of extremists and right-wing extremists in the state. And though there are, we do have quite a few. There's 1/3 of us.
Yeah.
And we don't even know.
Support
And more than
independent
half
media.
the NPAs as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Support independent media, because we're doing our best to get the word out. We should start covering some of these rallies and marches that we
I
attend
agree.
anyway.
I agree.
Or maybe we can just start editing and adding some clips in. But we're growing here. We're growing on the Juice Podcast. And Cindy, we seem to have some very engaged listeners this morning.
do.
So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Share these videos just to get the word out there, to get the pushback out there, and to let others know that you may get discouraged sometime, but nevertheless, this is going to be a long journey ahead. We've come a long way, and I want people to be encouraged. Really,
Yes.
I want to be encouraged. That's why I stay connected to both of you.
And I'm a fighter. So
Yes, you are.
Same. We are not going down. I don't
We're not
care what
going.
Ron DeSantis says about the Democratic Party, which again, Ron, those are the people you serve that you're talking about.
Absolutely.
But,
We're not monsters.
No, and we really need people, and even if anyone's listening or who is a Republican, vote in your primaries. Let's try not to put these crazies in office. Even if you're a Republican and you don't support all of this extremist agenda, vote in the primaries. Get these extremists out of office at whatever cost, because despite what the whole narrative is about Republicans are anti-big government, we're not big government, and that's why control needs to be within the state. Everyone should understand that when a Republican says that, or when anyone says that, they're not for less government. That doesn't mean the power goes to the people. In fact, it usually means that the state governments are more restrictive, and that's why they don't want federal oversight. So keep that in mind. And throughout history, that has been made clear. They want the federal government out of states' business so that they can commit atrocities within their states, as we've seen with Jim Crow laws. Now we're seeing with abortion bans. So don't be fooled by the fact that they're saying the government needs to stay out of our business. What they mean is federal government stays out, so we can restrict change.
And let's also correct the idea that there's red states and blue states, because like you said,
Right.
Florida's purple. So we got
Florida is
Democrats
purple.
and Republicans and non-party folks in here. So there's no such thing as a state culture, which is another thing that folks are talking about. Even in the reddest of states, there's a large proportion of people who do not agree, who are not necessarily all Republicans, right? So don't buy into the state culture thing and that the states have to make laws to this, because they're not necessarily representative of the people.
Right.
And that's just a cop out for a small group of powerful people in that state to maintain power.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So the message of the day is get out, organize, talk to your friends, have uncomfortable conversations, and talk to people about how these policies affect everyday lives. Talk to people, even people that don't agree with you. We have to have these conversations, because I feel like a lot of people don't see the follow through, the end game of what these policies mean.
What's the drop of the week? How we gonna drop them out?
Oh
this
my
week?
gosh, drop of the week.
Summertime, Janis Joplin.
Chantal, did you recently learn about this song? Didn't you?
No,
No?
I love that
Who am
song.
I thinking of that just learned about this song? Oh, I think somebody that I watch that does music reviews. Okay. That is a good song.
So we'll put in Summertime, Janis Joplin in here. You'll see that in the edited version that will come out on Monday next week. So thanks for joining us here. She's going to
We're going to play it.
play a little bit here.
We're taking it way back with Janice.
Can you hear it?
That's real low.
It's just real loud in here. She ain't got cranked up yet.
We'll put the clip in. You'll see it. You'll actually see it on our Instagram and social media as well.
Thank you, everybody who has joined us this morning. We appreciate your support. Please spread the word. Help us grow. We appreciate you.
All right.
Tune in for more at bigmouthmediafl.com. And Elizabeth and Cindy, call me about those runs. Talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.